I like going to the beach because I can find all different kind of shapes of rocks and seashells and probably sometimes some baby crabs. I love eating fish. There's lots of kinds of fish too.
Humans use the oceans in many different ways. Most importantly, we get a lot of food from the ocean, but we also use the ocean to transport our materials. Grain, for example, gets transported by ships, all our food, clothing. So we use the ocean a lot directly. Indirectly, the oceans really take care of a lot of our waste. So for example, a lot of the CO2 that we pump into the atmosphere gets trapped by the oceans. Much of the oxygen that we breathe comes from the oceans. And so if we want to maintain the lifestyle that we have and using the ocean the way we have, we must protect them.
One of the key questions is to understand the importance of marine biodiversity for the way ecosystems work in the oceans. What we call ecosystem services, things that ecosystems do for society that are beneficial for us, producing fish habitat and even recycling nutrients and decomposing dead little fish bodies in the bottom of the sea.
Another reason to care is because it's there and it's lovely and it's just doing its life process and asking questions about how life works, how the communities work, makes us understand a little bit better how we work.
The Canadian Healthy Oceans Network is a partnership among about 65 scientists from across Canada. There are 15 universities, and the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, along with DFO, are the primary sponsors. And the idea of the program is to try and create knowledge for sustainable management of the oceans. And that's a really complicated problem. In the past, we've really focused on a very few species, but now we recognize that we need to be much broader in our thinking and to really come at it with an ecosystem approach. And so that makes the question a lot more difficult because we need a lot more information than we used to. And that's why it's really so critical that we bring together all these people. After all, Canada has 3 oceans, the Pacific, the Arctic, and the Atlantic. We have a very thin research community that's spread across the country. And we also have a bilingual country that's French and English. And so trying to communicate all this information and to pull it all together requires a really network-type approach. And that's what we're trying to do with the Canadian Healthy Oceans Network.
Canadian Healthy Oceans brings to DFO the capability to entrain a group of young scientists from across the country. We have a very diverse group. We bring together students from a number of Canadian universities, and we bring them together to work on problems using multidisciplinary approaches.
My study is mainly focusing on deep sea biology and specifically hydrothermal vents. Hydrothermal vents are underwater volcanoes. They're actually fascinating to look at. So just picture any volcano that you see on the surface, and that's exactly what's happening, but at great depths, greater than 2,000 meters below the sea level. And they house lots of crazy animals, little critters from worms to these crazy looking crabs. When you're at these huge depths, you don't have the sun. The bacteria is using all the chemicals that are being spewed out of these hydrothermal vents as an energy source, just like how plants are using the sun as an energy source. If you're at the source of this flux coming out, it can get up to about 400 degrees Celsius.
I get to use some pretty cool toys. We have a remotely operated vehicle called a rope hose, and it's kind of Canada's pride and joy. So we get to sit on a ship and deploy rope hose to the bottom of the ocean and watch in high definition what's going on down there.
And it's very easy to discover new species. There is so much we have not found.
Canadian Arctic, it's really a vast area. 10% of the coastal zone of the world are located in the Canadian Arctic. It's really the last frontier with the deep sea where we need to go sample. Each time we go there, we discover some new species.
Récemment, j'ai terminé l'identification de tous les animaux à 65 stations dans l'Arctique canadien. On a dénombré plus de 500 différentes espèces qui vivent sur les fonds marins de l'océan Arctique canadien.
What is also very special is that I have the chance to provide knowledge for informed decision making for an area that is one of the last pristine areas in the world.
In my PhD, I study one of Canada's most valuable fisheries, the American lobster. I'm sure we all know and love. In particular with lobster, I look at some of the biological characteristics of the most early stages of these lobsters. So these are the youngest little babies that have just gone off the mom, and I'm exploring some of the unique biological characteristics that really maybe aren't that resolved in our current knowledge.
My part in the CHONe project will help contribute to conservation of the marine habitats because we're looking at seabirds and their diversity and abundance all throughout the Gulf of Maine. That can be used in combination with all the data on the benthic systems and the pelagic systems. That way we can find hotspots in different important areas that can become marine protected areas.
I want to go scuba diving and see lots of different kind of corals and sharks and octopuses. I feel like it's important to protect the ocean because there can be lots of plastic in it and the sea animals could choke on them and they could die.
That we really owe it to future generations to try and preserve this biodiversity because it may be very important for the health of the oceans, but really it's also a form of heritage to future generations. And so we really owe it to them to try and do what we can to maintain ocean health and also to maintain as many species as we can to contribute to that health.